On March 2026, in a Michigan district courtroom, defendant Gunnar Ryan appeared before the court for a show cause hearing on two separate cases. Ryan faced allegations of failing to appear for a prior show cause hearing and failing to make a scheduled payment on his court-ordered payment plan. The hearing would determine whether Ryan would remain in custody or be released with modified bond conditions, testing the court's balance between enforcement and rehabilitation for indigent defendants navigating the criminal justice system.
Yeah. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. What is your name?
Gunnar Ryan.
This is a show cause, Mr. McKean, so if you just want to hold out, I think you have one more after this. All right, so we've got two cases here. First up, case number 210259 as here for a show cause. All right. Looks like you were supposed to have a show cause and you failed to appear for that and you have not set up a payment plan yet. So how come we haven't set up a payment plan?
I did set up a payment plan with the courts. When I first got out of jail, it was one of my main priorities. I was supposed to pay 25 on the 1st of this month.
The 1st of March? Okay, why didn't you pay that on the 1st of March then?
Because I didn't have the money, and I actually forgot about it, to be honest. I have a lot going on. I got like the GEMS program, I got Swift Insure, I got a lot of programming and counseling that I'm doing, so trying to keep everything in the one is.
Okay, can you set a reminder on your phone to make payments?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right, because I'm a little bit leery of just letting you out and having this happen again just for us to have to chase you down for another $25 payment. So do you have a job outside of this?
No, that's what, well, I'm in a GEMS program. That's kind of what it is, so.
Okay, so if you get out, are you going to be able to make a $25 payment today?
Today? I probably not, because I have to wait until I have like these workshops I have to do. I have to pay for the workshops, so it's the way I have money.
How long do you need to make a payment?
A week.
All right, I'm going to amend your bond to, in this case, to $200 personal recognizance so that you can get out and get back to work. I'm going to adjourn this. I'm only going to give you 30 days though to make your first payment plan. You got to make your first payment of the payment plan within 30 days. Otherwise, you're going to be here for another show cause.
The judge conducted a show cause hearing where the defendant explained that despite setting up a payment plan, he missed his first $25 payment due to financial constraints and competing program obligations. Rather than holding Ryan in custody, the judge amended his bond to $200 personal recognizance and granted a 30-day extension to make his first payment. Under Michigan Court Rule 6.106, courts possess broad discretion to modify bond conditions at any stage of proceedings, including converting cash or surety bonds to personal recognizance when defendants demonstrate community ties and compliance challenges, rather than willful noncompliance. The rule permits judges to consider the defendant's prior record of appearance at court proceedings and the defendant's employment status and financial history as factors in bond modification decisions. Additionally, Michigan Compiled Laws Section 780.65 governs show cause hearings for probation violations and payment plan failures, requiring courts to determine whether noncompliance was willful or resulted from inability to pay, a distinction with constitutional significance under the 14th Amendment's due process and equal protection guarantees, as interpreted in Bearden v. Georgia, 1983. Here, Judge applied Rule 6.106 by reducing Ryan's bond from whatever amount would have kept him in custody to $200 personal recognizance, enabling his release to continue rehabilitation programming. The judge's questioning, probing whether Ryan could set phone reminders, whether his non-payments stemmed from forgetfulness or inability, and his participation in GEMS and counseling, directly implements the Bearden v. Georgia framework by distinguishing between willful refusal and genuine inability to pay. The 30-day adjournment with a firm deadline reflects the court's effort to balance rehabilitation interests against the need for payment plan enforcement. This exchange illustrates how Michigan courts navigate the constitutional prohibition against punishing poverty. Courts cannot incarcerate defendants solely for non-payment of fees they cannot afford, but may enforce payment plans against those with means who simply refuse to comply. The judge's decision to release Ryan rather than hold him for a $25 missed payment demonstrates proper application of ability to pay analysis, while the strict 30-day deadline preserves court authority to sanction actual willful violations. For viewers, this reveals how seemingly minor procedural hearings carry significant liberty interests and constitutional protections.
You might get another benchmark.
Okay.
So in regards to that case, bond is amended to $200 personal recognizances. The case will be adjourned 30 days and you must make your first payment within 30. We also have case number 220601SM, where you also failed to show, to appear for a show cause. The amount due on that one is $5,590. Were you expecting to make a payment plan on that one as well?
Yeah.
And how soon can you make a payment on that one?
Probably the same time as the other one.
All right, then I'll do the same thing. I will adjourn it just 30 days. You have 30 days from today to make your first payment. Otherwise, you're going to be here for another show cause. Do you understand? All right, so I am hopefully not going to see you in 30 days. It's very possible that your cases, it's actually very likely that these cases will be set for different dates. So be sure to keep track of both notices for both cases, okay? Stay in contact with your attorney because they will also have all of these notices of hearing and let you know when they are. And you are all set for today, ma'am.
The judge addressed Ryan's second case involving a substantially larger debt of $5,590, applying identical bond modification and payment timeline conditions despite the different financial scale, while warning Ryan about the administrative complexity of tracking multiple case schedules. Michigan Court Rule 620 SWEF authorizes consolidation of related cases for efficiency. But when cases remain separate, Rule 8.117 requires courts to ensure defendants receive clear notice of all pending dates and obligations. The judge's explicit warning about potentially different hearing dates reflects judicial awareness of the failure to appear trap that indigent defendants with multiple cases frequently encounter, a problem documented in the 2019 Michigan State Bar Study showing that 34% of bench warrants issue from confusion about court dates rather than willful absconding. The consistent treatment of both cases, despite the 20-fold difference in debt amounts, demonstrates application of the principle from People v. Nunnery, 1993, that bond conditions must be tailored to the individual defendant's circumstances rather than the charge severity or debt magnitude. Judge treated both cases uniformly. 200 personal recognizance bond, 30-day payment deadline. Despite the $25 versus $5,590 disparity, indicating that Ryan's demonstrated inability to pay and active rehabilitation participation mattered more than the raw dollar amounts owed. The explicit instruction to track separate notices and maintain attorney contact directly addresses the procedural failure mode that originally brought Ryan to court. His prior failure to appear for show cause hearings likely stemmed from notice confusion rather than deliberate avoidance, given his cooperative demeanor and program engagement. This dual case handling reveals how quickly court debt accumulates and compounds for defendants in the criminal justice system, creating overlapping obligations that overwhelm individuals lacking resources and organizational support. The judge's practical advice about notice tracking acknowledges systemic communication failures while placing continued burden on Ryan to navigate them. For educational viewers, this demonstrates how procedural compliance, appearing when ordered, tracking multiple dates becomes a separate punishment layer atop financial obligations, one that can trigger incarceration through technical violations even when underlying debt stems from poverty rather than criminal conduct. The court amended Gunner Ryan's bond to $200 personal recognizance on both cases, releasing him from custody to continue his GENS programming and counseling. Ryan received 30 days to make first payments on both his $25 and $59 and $190 obligations, with explicit warnings that failure would result in additional show cause hearings and potential bench warrants. The judge emphasized the administrative challenge of tracking separate case schedules, advising Ryan to maintain close contact with his attorney to avoid future failures to appear. This hearing exemplifies the criminalization of poverty problem that has generated significant constitutional litigation and policy reform. The Supreme Court's decision in Bearden v. Georgia, 1983, established that courts must inquire into ability to pay before incarcerating for non-payment of fines. Yet as this transcript reveals, the line between can't pay and won't pay remains judicially constructed through informal questioning rather than structured hearings. Michigan's approach, embodied in Court Rule 6.106's discretionary bond modification framework, provides judges flexibility to release indigent defendants, but also creates inconsistency where outcomes depend heavily on individual judicial philosophy rather than uniform standards. The educational takeaway extends beyond this single case. Court debt systems generate cascading consequences where missed $25 payments trigger bench warrants, custody, and additional fees, creating debt spirals that research from the Brennan Center for Justice shows can multiply original obligations tenfold through collection surcharges, warrant fees, and incarceration costs. Ryan's simultaneous participation in GEMS, a Michigan workforce development program for justice-involved individuals, and his inability to pay $25 illustrates the fundamental tension between rehabilitation rhetoric and punitive financial structures. Effective court reform requires not merely individual judicial leniency, but systemic restructuring of how courts assess ability to pay, consolidate related obligations, and communicate requirements to defendants navigating multiple cases with limited resources. Examine your own state's court debt and bail practices. Does your jurisdiction conduct formal ability to pay hearings or rely on informal judicial questioning like this transcript shows? Contact your state court administrator's office to request data on bond modification rates, bench warrant issuance for non-payment, and average time between missed payment and incarceration. Understanding these patterns in your community is the first step toward advocating for reforms that distinguish between willful noncompliance and systemic barriers to compliance, ensuring that poverty itself does not become punishable by imprisonment.